So we're now at the point where we are going to join all of our squares together. Now, hopefully by this point you will have blocked your squares so that they measure 14 inches by 14 inches, or at least so they are all measuring the same size. Now what we're going to do is we're going to join the rows together first. So create 4 sets of 3 squares. So for example, this first set here will be the grey, the cream, the grey, and then the next one will be the cream, the grey, the cream, and then repeat that again. So we have 4 of the rows. So this is the type of join that we're going to do. It's a really lovely join, and that's what we're going to do here. So I'm going to show you how to do this short join so that you can make your 4 sets of 3 panels. And please refer to the PDF so you can be sure on the colour layout. And then once we've joined these or made our rows, I will show you how to do the long join where we'll be joining the sets of 3 together all the way across. We're going to be using the mattress stitch for this join. I would recommend that you start on a tabletop for this. Once you get the first few going, you should be fine to just sit and crochet comfortably. But definitely for this first bit, so you know that it's aligned, I would recommend doing it on a table or a work surface. You are going to need your cream yarn for this, and then a darning needle. I'm using this darning needle. It has a bend on the end, which I find quite useful for when it comes to doing the mattress stitch, but obviously any darning needle will do. So I'll show you these 2 panels together. We're going to start at the bottom and work our way up. You are going to need to snip off some yarn, and for this I tend to measure just 3 widths of where we're doing. So go ahead and snip that off the ball of yarn, and then we're going to thread up our darning needle like so. Okay, so this is what we're going to do first. We want to be mindful that these lines are going to want to line up together. And the way that I do this is start off by looking at my first treble just here. That's the top of my first treble. And then I count 1 stitch, which is the chain before, and then I can find the corner stitch just here. So I'll go through that corner stitch, and then on the corresponding side we have our first treble here, then we have the chain, and then we have the corner stitch just here. So I'll just go through there, and I shall pull that through, leaving a tail end. So just leaving the tail end at the bottom, and it's going to be loose for now because we're going to sew that in later. So if I lay this flat, it might be easier to show you this way first of all. What we're going to do is we're going to look at the stitches on this side first. So we have this next stitch along, and then we have the top of our treble. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into the middle of that stitch. Let me show you on one which is a little bit easier to see. We have those V's here. You go in between the V and come out in between the next V. So that's what we're going to do. But we want to make sure we're starting on this very first stitch. So we go in between the V and out of the next V, which should be your first treble. And then it gets a little bit tangled first of all. This is why I tell you to do it on a tabletop. So hold down this tail end here and then pull through gently to bring that stitch through. We're now going to do exactly the same on the other side. So this is our treble, so we'll go into the stitch before, go into the V and out of the next V. So you're almost going through the tops of the stitches. and then we're going to pull that through, and then we have our stitch. We can leave it like this for now because it's easier for us to see. But now we want to have a look where we did our last stitch, which is here. Go into that same stitch and out of the next V and pull through, and then find where we came out of the last stitch on the opposite side, go in and out of the next stitch. So you can leave these loose for now because I'm just going to keep doing that. So into the last stitch, out of the next, into the last stitch, out of the next, and this next one I'm going into the last stitch and out of the next, and that is where this line is. So we just want to check that that is the same on the other side. So into the last stitch, out of the next, and it does line up with this line just here. So this is what it should be looking like right now. Now what you can do is hold on to this initial tail end, and you can pull on the working end and a little bit on the original tail end, and it pulls that closed. And then we can just continue to work in the same way. You just need to be making sure that you are working in and out the corresponding stitches from one side to the next, especially making sure that these lines line up to give the effect that we're looking for in our work. So if we just get to this next one now, going in and out of the next one will be where this line is, and then out of the next one is where the line is, so they are lining up. You can hold again and then pull, and then you're going to do that all the way up. Now what I find is once I get going, I can actually lift my work up like this, and I can start to just work in and out of the stitches a little bit quicker once I get going. So in and out of the stitch, in and out, in and out, and just keep working this along for an inch or so, and then once you've done an inch or so, you can lay it flat and then pull. And that is what you're going to do all the way up. So pause the video, work all the way up to the end, and I will show you how we're going to finish off this join. So now you've worked your way all the way to the end, what we're going to do is we're going to ensure that we're working into this last corner. So again, just to double check, this is the treble, then we have the next stitch, and then we have this corner space just here. So I'm going to go through the top of that stitch, and don't forget to do your last pull before you do this. And then we're going to also find that stitch on this side, go through the top of that stitch, just pull those together, and then I'm going to go through the top of that other stitch again, just so that I can loop through and knot off. You can do a second time if you like. And that is that side, so I'm just going to snip that tail end down a little bit. And then on the other side, because we left this open, once you're happy with how that is looking, and like what this seam is looking like, please don't pull this too tight because it will pucker, but you just want to make sure that it's all together nicely. So I could just pull that down a little bit more, and then it doesn't, you can't see the seam once you pull it apart. but it's not puckering either. And if you have found that it's puckered a little bit, you can just kind of gently pull it out and reshape it. But this side is now finished for me, so I can go ahead, thread up my darning needle again, and then we're going to tie off in the same way as what we did on the other side. So counting to that corner stitch, and then counting to the corner stitch, going back, and then fastening off. And then just going to snip off the slight excess there. Then once you've done that for the other one, you will have your 3 panels joined together. So there's just 3 panels there, and you would do that for the other panels, remembering that you're going to have 2 exactly the same as this, and then 2 the opposite way round. So it would be the cream, the grey, the cream, 2 of those as well. Once you've done those, then we are going to go ahead and join the lengths, which is exactly the same. I'm just going to show you what we're going to do in this corner section where all 4 join. So go ahead and join to make your rows, and then we're going to join the rows together. Okay, so I have now joined these first. These are the rows. I've joined this first one together here, and now we're met in the section where we've got 4 of the squares joining. So what we want to do is, obviously this section was done in exactly the same way as when we were making our rows. But now what we want to do is just make this join really nice and crisp. And what we're going to do is just make sure that when you're up to this point that this is sitting the way you want it. So give it a good pull. And then what we're going to do is we're going to find that corner and go into the corner and pull through. Find the next corner on that next square around and go through, pull it all the way through and pull. Find that next corner and go through and pull, and then find that next corner on the next square and pull through. I'm then going to go into the next square just one more time into the corner and pull through, and then this time I'm just going to give it a good, I'm going to hold the seam and give it a good pull, and that just pulls that in really nicely. Then I'm just going to go into the stitches just to get me to where I want to be next. So coming into this section here and out of the next stitch. And then I'm going to go into the opposite and go through and through like we have been doing all the way, and continuing our mattress stitch all the way across. And then when you get to the next join where there's 4 joins together, you will do exactly the same thing. You will make sure you've pulled it nice and tightly, not too tight, but you're happy with the seam once you've pulled it and it's not too loose and not too tight. And then once you're happy with that seam, you can go ahead and do the same thing in that 4 corner join. And then you can work your way across to the very end again. And you're just going to repeat that for all of your panels, obviously making sure that you're putting the right panel in the right place. Again, refer to the images and to your layout guide in your PDF. And then we will be ready for the border.